Jim Boland has won the toss, so to speak, to give the first opening statement. So go ahead, Jim. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you, Lee. Thanks, KRFP, for having the candidate forum online tonight on the air. As Lee said, I was appointed to be city councilman in January of this year, and I've learned a great deal about what it takes to run a city, and I've enjoyed the process quite a bit and decided to run for election to the post. There's a number of projects that I'd like to see through that we've started work on. One of them, the paramount one, is the police station. I think we need a new police station that has better access to more than one road and more room for the personnel in the police department. Also, there's several street relocation, realignment projects that I'd like to see through over the next 4 years.
Okay, you still have a minute left, but we'll go on.
All right.
To anything else? Okay.
That'll be good enough.
All right, we'll go to Catherine Bonzo for her opening statement.
All right, thanks, Lee. My name is Catherine Bonzo, and I'm a teacher here in town. We've lived in the area of Moscow for about 8 years, and before that we lived in Troy for 14, and I sat on city council in Troy right when we moved into town. So I had a 4-year seat in Troy, and I really liked learning about the water system and the sanitation and the sewer, and I really appreciated the things that the people that actually found the town and were maintaining the town did, and I really liked the infrastructure. And so I knew that when I had some time here that I felt like I was ready, that I would, want to do that again. And so it's been 8 years, and I feel ready to do that. And in getting ready, I've read the comprehensive plan and all the city surveys, and been going to commission meetings and met with council members and city staff to fill in gaps and ask questions and kind of see where the momentum and the direction of the city is going. And so the things that Jim is talking about, those are tiered projects that are in the 2016 budget.
All right. Well, that was Catherine Bonzo in her opening statement. You're tuned to KRFP, Moscow Pullman, 90.3 on your FM dial. I'm Lee Robertis. We're with Catherine Bonzo and Jim Boland, 2 of the 4 city council candidates in the Moscow City Council race this year. The phone number is 208-892-9200, and we've got a caller. So, caller, you are on the air.
Well, my question for the candidates is, how can we maintain Moscow's walkability and bikeability and increase it? And my special concern is, as new neighborhoods are added to the north and the east, how can we make sure there's connectivity and that there's alternative forms of transportation as well as good roads?
Okay, well, that'll go to Jim Boland first, so you have a minute.
Okay, the Pathways Commission is doing a great job of maintaining and adding pathways, walking and bicycle pathways around the city. There's currently a process in the works for wayfinding signs all around the Greenway to tell people how far it is to various important locations in town and how much time it would take to get there on a bicycle or walking. So we think those will be great innovations. The underpass under Highway 8, which would be a bicycle pedestrian underpass, the engineering has been done on that, which would improve the connectivity between the trail and the north side of town. Hopefully there'll be one under Highway 95 as well, so you'd be able to walk or ride a bicycle from the University of Idaho to the ball fields in Joseph without going up a hill or ever stopping. That's my hope.
All right, that was Jim Boland, and now Catherine Bonzo.
Well, I can say that everything that Jim has said is really on track, and he is the liaison for that commission. And watching him as a council member, he has done a very good job of taking all the information that they talk about in that commission meeting and then bringing it forward to the council, which is really essential because he educates the rest of the council on the things that are done there. And that's how you get things happening. And so the conductivity part, which is really what I like about your question, is so essential because we see more people walking and biking, and that conversation is what's going to promote us in looking at this next budget year to have those kinds of things happen. So I think that being part of that, even in going to those commission meetings, going to the planning and zoning meetings as a citizen, help feed the want for those types of things that will help our community. Thank you for your question.
All right, that was Catherine Bonzo. And once again, if callers have more questions, the phone number is 208-892-9200. If you have follow-ups, if you can get through, that's the number to call. So the next question will go to Catherine Bonzo, and we don't have anybody on the line at the moment. Relating to walkability and transport, there was a forum on disability access in the city recently that highlighted difficult spots for navigating the city, particularly sidewalks. What problem areas are the city's responsibility, and how would you fix them?
Well, all of it has been in the city. You know, when you look in the planning and zoning code, it talks about sidewalks, and it actually gives the regulations on what has to be fixed in it. And believe it or not, it's not very much difference. It's like a half an inch. A problem for sidewalks to be repaired, and I think the city is looking into that now too, because, and this also goes along with the trees, because the trees uproot and change what's happening with the sidewalks. So these two commissions working together are part of dealing with and solving those problems. Dan Carskalen at the other forum at the chamber talked about the bump outs and the different things that had to be done and the changes that are made. So again, I think this is one of those very interesting topics that's moving forward.
Okay, that was Catherine Bonzo, and now we'll go to Jim Boland.
Tell me the question again, Lee.
Well, there was a forum on disability access in the city recently, and that highlighted difficult spots for navigating around the city, particularly sidewalks, and this pertains especially to people in wheelchairs. What problem areas are the city's responsibility, and how would you fix them?
Well, clearly the responsibility is to make it accessible to everyone, especially in the downtown area, that anybody in a wheelchair or a walker should be able to get up on the curb when crossing a street anywhere in the downtown area or any place that there's a continuous sidewalk in the city. And there's been a lot of progress on that. We've got a big Department of Transportation grant that's been put to use in the last 4 years. Especially on North Main, it was impossible to go up North Main with a wheelchair or even a bicycle, really, until those curb cuts were put in. And now they are in place, and I think there's been a lot of progress made in the downtown area and fanning out throughout the city and the major transportation corridors.
All right, that was Jim Boland, and you're tuned to KRFP Moscow Pullman, and we are taking calls for candidates for Moscow City Council, Jim Boland and Catherine Bonzo tonight. The phone number is 208-892-9200, and hope to hear from citizens of the community with questions for city council members. Speaking about navigating around the city, when deciding whether to build a pedestrian-only or vehicular bridge over Paradise Creek on 3rd Street near Mountain View, how much consideration should be given to neighborhood residents as opposed to city residents at large? And this will go to Jim Boland first.
Well, definitely the residents close by that crossing, that their opinions matter a lot. Obviously, those people have enjoyed living on a dead-end street for a long time with no through traffic by there, and some of them may not want that to change, and I understand that, but at the same time, they have to be aware that was always a possibility, that street could be connected there. I think it's the council has decided that the best way to do that would be with a multimodal bridge system there with traffic calming, to slow the traffic up to that intersection. But the funding for that is probably out into the future quite a ways. And so a pedestrian bicycle bridge is way more affordable in the short term. And I'd certainly like to see that happen in the next year if possible.
All right, that was Jim Boland, and now we'll go to Catherine Bonzo.
This is a very good question because I think this addresses us thinking about Moscow's connectivity to the university. And I'm putting together a blog actually on this, and I'm thinking about it as Moscow mobility. And I'm just proposing an idea. And everything that Jim said is absolutely truth and accurate. I think what's important to begin to do is visualize and imagine a boulevard on 3rd where you have the traffic calming, because we have the beautiful East City Park, we have the 1912, we have Lena Whitmore, we have the high school, we have all these things that bring you down into town or push you out, because we have all those events that happen at East City Park, Rendezvous, Renaissance Fair, Hemp Fest. We have multiple events that happen at that park. And so what I think would be interesting too is to continue to make that walkability and bikeability the first step, but it really has to start with conversations with the residents. And this reminds me of some work I did with L'Etat Trail. So that's where I'd like to go further.
Okay, and that was Catherine Bonzo. We've got another caller. Caller, go ahead with your question. This will go to Catherine Bonzo first.
Yeah, so Al Chittister calling. What I'm looking for, speaking about pedestrian bridge, I'm wondering about the handicap accessibility for like the motorized wheelchairs, and like will it be able to be constructed in that manner?
Hey Al, I think the thing to remember is any building that has to be done, whether it's in a structure or on the streets, has to follow ADA regulations. And so anything that is designed goes through a process. You know, you go through a bid process, you have a lot of conversation to figure out what has to be done, and then decisions are made based on that. So like when Jim's even talking about that the council's decided to have multimodal, that is one of the modes of transportation. It is inclusive. All parts of the way to get across that piece of Paradise Creek is included in that.
That was Catherine Bonzo. Now Jim Boland.
Al, if we put a pedestrian bicycle bridge over 3rd Street, it will no doubt connect in some way that will be accessible to people with wheelchairs and walkers, and be good for handicapped citizens to get across. I can't imagine that we would put something there that would only be accessible to world-class mountain bike riders or something like that. It'll be something that's usable for all citizens.
All right, and that was Jim Boland. You're tuned to KRFP Moscow Pullman. It is 90.3 on your FM dial, and the phone number is 892-9300. The next question will go to Jim Boland first. And since we're staying on the transportation thing, how do projects, future proposed projects like a 3rd Street bridge, maybe a pedestrian bridge, or the underpasses that you mentioned that would be used for recreation trails underneath the Troy Highway and maybe US 95, how do they fit into the city budget? Are these only projects that can go through if we get a sizable amount of state or federal funding?
Well, certainly grants are a big portion of those. I think the bid to do the one under Highway 8 was $345,000. There's a grant in the works there that would put the city's portion of that at about $26,000. So that would make it doable. I personally think we can make these pathways happen. They wouldn't be fully ADA accessible or anything, but we can get these things going in a more of an orphan path set up in the very short term without having to even pour any concrete there. For instance, right now you can walk under Highway 95 right now as a pedestrian. It's not very bicycle friendly, but you can walk under there right now if you don't want to wait for the light. So these pathways are feasible as dirt paths, like a number of the orphan paths we have around the city. And once people start using them, then the support for those will grow, I think.
All right, that was Jim Boland, and now Catherine Bonzo.
I think the interesting thing is in the budget year, and we're kind of halfway through 2016, the city staff is already beginning to think about next year's budget, as is the council. And so to push a priority forward, and it sounds like transportation has been an issue that is coming up in this election cycle, then those people speak up, and that's what gets heard, and then reprioritizing happens. That's how things get budgeted.
All right, that was Catherine Bonzo. The phone number is 892-9200. We're taking calls for city council candidates Catherine Bonzo and Jim Boland tonight. So if anybody has questions for them, that's the number to call. We might as well stick to the transportation until we run out of transportation questions. I noticed, and this will go to Catherine Bonzo first, there was some hesitancy on the part of at least one city council member over the summer to approve $2.5 million in matching funds for the runway realignment project at the airport until the other entities, such as the City of Pullman, WSU, the University of Idaho, committed their shares of the matching funds. So what's your feeling about trusting the other entities on the Palouse and the region to come up with their fair share in joint projects?
I think it will happen because this is something I talked about actually at the chamber meeting about a regional mindset and thinking about the Quad City piece. And we are realizing that we need each other. Pullman needs us, we need them, Clarkston, Lewiston, and then we're all very connected to Spokane. So beginning to think of ourselves as a region instead of little, small, rural communities is a shift that's happening. So I think that the airport, and the case has been made about how difficult or easy it is to get here and how much people like it or not, depending on what you want for your quality of life, is really important. But no matter what, we know that the airport will grow, and I'm thrilled that that's going through, and I think those relationships are quite strong.
That was Catherine Bonzo. Now Jim Boland.
So there was some concern about whether the other players were going to come to the table, and I understand that. And this whole project was started before I was on the council, so I kind of came into it late, and I felt like I'm not a person that really likes to start a project without having the financing in place for it, because we've all seen houses out in the counties where somebody's had enough money for a foundation and some framing, and then they run out of money or get a divorce, and you got a bunch of sticks standing up that never get a roof on them. And we don't want the airport to be that. But the way these projects work is the FAA will give us grants as they come available, and we have to put our match up front. All the players have come to the table now, and we have enough match to complete the project. So I think the boat's out in deep water, and the best thing to do is not try to sink it at this point.
All right, that was Jim Boland. And the next question from the phone lines will go to Jim Boland first. KRFP, you are on the air.